Alright, so welcome to 1E number 2. So this is solving systems of equations by substitution. Last class we did by graphing. Today we're going to do by substitution. So at top here I have one equation, or two equations. So it's a system, means more than one equation that you're going to have to solve together. This way is by substitution, so this is all by hand, no visual, by graphing. But I have our steps over here on the left side. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to solve one of the equations for a variable. So what I do is I look at all the equations separately. So I'm looking at 18x and 6y equals 24. Do any of those variables easy to get by themselves? So it says x equals or y equals. And they're fairly easy. I could subtract 18x and then divide by 6. That would work. But I actually see if in the second equation, looks a little bit, I think it's going to be a little easier there to get the y by itself. There's no coefficient. So I'm actually going to take that equation. So negative 9x minus y equals 8. And I'm going to get the y by itself. So I'm going to add y. And so it's a negative 9x equals 8 plus y. And I'm going to subtract 8. Really, maybe that wasn't too much easier. Negative 9x minus 8 equals y. There, we have an equation solved for a variable. Y equals negative 9x minus 8. Now we're going to substitute the equation solved for step 1 for the variable in another equation. So here's what I'm talking about. So we have y equals, and this is our second equation. I'm going to take that y equals, and I am going to substitute it. So what that y equals, I'm going to substitute in for y of our first equation, the other equation that we did not already solve for. So I'm going to take the 18x plus 6, and that's times y, 6 times y. So instead of y, I'm going to replace it with a negative 9x minus 8. That equals 24. So I took what the y equals. Oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, whatever. So I took what the y equals. The y equals negative 9 minus 8, and I replaced the y with a negative 9x minus 8, because that's what y equals. So the y up here we're going to replace with negative 9x minus 8. Now we're going to solve for the variable. So I'm going to solve this equation. I need to distribute. So I'm going to 18x plus 6 times negative 9 is a negative 54x. So that could have been plus, that could be just a subtraction. 6 times negative 8 is negative 48. And I got to solve here. I got to gather my like terms. 18x minus 54x is a 36x minus 48 equals 24. Gather your like terms on opposite sides, so you're doing opposite operations. We're going to have 36 equals 72. Oh, don't forget the x. 36x equals 72 divided by 36. Oh, that works out nice. X is going to equal 2. So we know that's part of our solution. That's our x value of the coordinate. Now for the last step, we're going to substitute the value that we just found into either of the original equations. Doesn't actually matter. You can actually substitute it into the manipulated equation too. Does not matter at all. It's actually probably easiest if you do substitute it into the original or the manipulated equation. But you can substitute it into any one of the equations. Does not matter which one. I'm going to just choose, I said the original equation, so I'm going to put it into one of the originals. I'm going to choose the bottom one. So negative 9 times x minus y equals 8. So it becomes negative 18 minus y equals 8. I'm going to add 18. Negative y equals 26 divided by negative 1. And the y is going to equal negative 26. There's my y value. So our solution is the x value of 2, the y value of negative 26. Why do I feel like that's not right? I'm just making sure I copied everything down. Looks good. All right, so number 1. We already have the y equals that I already solved for, so I'm going to replace the y in the second equation with what y equals. Well, y equals negative 5x minus 819, so that's what I'm going to replace the y with. So 6 times y, so 6 times negative 5x minus 19 equals 4. Let's solve this equation. So I'm going to distribute the negative 6, so that's positive 30x, and that'd be 54 and 60 is 104 equals 4. Combine my like terms. 22x plus 104 equals 4. 60, 50. Oh, that's 114, isn't it? 60 and 54. All right, now we're going to subtract the 114. Negative 110 divided by 22, and that x value is going to equal negative 5. So that's our x value of the solution. We're going to substitute that back into one of the equations. I need to solve for y, so why wouldn't I choose that first equation? I'm going to replace the x, so this is 5 times x, so it's 5 times negative 5. And we're going to solve. So negative 5 times 5 is 25 minus 19. The y value is 6. So my coordinate is negative 5, 6 is my solution to both of the equations. All right, number 2. I'm going to solve for one of the equations. I think the easiest one will be the bottom. I'm going to solve for y. So I'm going to divide by negative 4. So y equals 3/4 x. Always simplify if you can. Minus 3/4. So I'm going to replace the y value. The y equals 3/4 x minus 3/4. I'm going to replace the y up top in the other equation with that. So 9x minus 12 times 3/4 x minus 3/4 equals 1. All right, I need to distribute the negative 12. Remember, it's over 1, so I have 9x. Multiply your numerators, multiply your denominators, multiply your numerators, multiply your denominators. Make sure that you have the negative 12 and the negative 3/4, that's coming through. Equals 1. So you have 9x, 36 divided by 4 is 9. 36 divided by 4 is 9. So I have 9x minus 9x. That's 0. 0x. 0 times x is 0. So those actually go away. You have 9 equals 1. That's not true. 9 does not equal 1. So that means this would be a no solution. That can't ever happen. 9 can't equal 1. So we're going to stop right there, and it's a no solution. All right, let's get up to the next one. How can we solve for a variable easily? I think the bottom equation is probably the easiest. Divide by 3 to get x alone. So 4/3 y, 16/3. That looks pretty ugly, but it'll work. So the x equals, we're going to replace the x up top with what it equals. So we have a negative 6 times 4/3 y plus 16/3 plus 5y equals negative 20. Distributing the negative 6. Remember, multiply your numerators, multiply your denominators, multiply your numerators. So 60, 36, so that's 96. Make sure that negative is coming in. Negative 96 over 3 minus 5y equals negative 20. Bring it up top. Negative 24 divided by 3 is negative 8. 96 divided by 3 is 32. 32. Almost got me. Get your like terms together. That'd be a negative 13y minus 32 equals negative 20. Add 32. 12th. Something's not right here. Oh no, what did I do wrong? 3. Oh no, I did something wrong. You probably see it, and I don't. So you can get a fraction. I just don't believe that this is a fraction. So, 32. I'm going to have to come back to this one because I don't believe that this is the actual solution. It can be a fraction. I just did not plan on this being a fraction here, so something's not looking right. I don't want to waste your time. So I'm going to move on to number 4. Maybe we'll get to that one in class. So I'm going to solve for one of the variables. This one is actually set up really well for elimination. But we'll solve for one of the variables. It does not matter which one we're going to do. I'm just going to solve one of the top equation. And I'll solve for y. Divide by -3. Positive 4/3 x minus 13 over 3. And I need to take that equation and I need to substitute it into the y. So negative 8x plus 6 times 4/3 x minus 13 over 3 equals negative 26. Distribute. 24 over 3x minus 60, 80, so 78 over 3, 26 equals negative 26. So I have a negative 8x plus 8x minus 26, right, yeah, 26 equals negative 26. Negative 8x plus 8x is 0x. We're left with a negative 26 equals negative 26. You can add 26 to both sides, then it'll be 0 equals 0, which is true. It's always true. So this actually ends up being infinite solutions. And that would be what you would write for the solution, that any coordinate. All right, number 5. This one, I would probably get this y right here by itself. That'd probably be my first. It does not actually matter. You can get any variable you want by itself, and it'll come up with the exact same solution. I'm going to substitute what y equals into the second equation with replacing the y. Distribute. That is 96. Negative 2x minus 36x is negative 38x. Negative 114. Divided by negative 38. And it's going to be x is going to equal 60, 72, so that's got to be 3. 90, 20, yep, 3. So the x value is 3, so I'm going to substitute it back into one of the equations. I'm going to actually choose the top equation, because that's 6 times x plus y equals 16. I could have substituted into this equation too. That would have been super easy. 6 times 3 is 18. Subtract 18. And the y is going to equal negative 2. So x equals 3, y equals negative 2. And number 6, the last problem. I'm going to choose the x in the bottom equation. Again, it never matters. Just try to do something that's easiest. So I'm going to subtract 2y. X equals a negative 2y minus 8. I'm going to replace what the x equals into the other equation. So 5 times negative 2y minus 8 subtract 2y equals negative 4. Distribute, so negative 10y minus 40 minus 2y equals negative 4. That's a negative 12y, gathering your like terms on the same side. Get your like terms together on opposite sides, so they're constants. Divide by negative 12 to figure out what each y is going to represent. Y is going to be negative 3. Substitute that into one of the equations. I'm actually going to let's do this bottom equation because that's the easiest. X equals negative 2 times negative 3, because we already have x solved for. I'm just going to substitute in for y that we just found down here. So negative 2 times negative 3 is 6, minus 8 is negative 2. So our x value is negative 2, our y value is negative 3. And looking at number 3, we'll have to do that in class. All right.